Good evening, everybody, and welcome to week 2 in CE 155, Facility Layout and Design. Chef Suzanne and I welcome you to another fine live session. Excellent work this week, everyone, on your assignments. Chef Suzanne is down there shaking her head. Yes. You guys have rocked the house, and I think we have a great crowd here tonight, which is fantastic. We were discussing earlier in one of those exciting meetings that we have, and somebody brought up a very true fact, and that is the students that attend the live sessions on a regular basis are the ones that succeed in this program. So thank you all for taking that step to success, and make sure that if you're not here, you do watch the live session archive because it's very critical. How did everybody like week 1 assignment? What kind of feedback do we have? Yeah, Ruben, what about you down there? What's your feedback on the week 1 assignment?
It's good. I got it in on time, so that's
hey, good job, man.
It was good. I like it. It was good.
Did it stretch your brain?
A little somewhat, you know, trying to get all the stations, you know, figure out who stays where and who works at what station, you know. Trying to get I work in the cafe, so I don't got too many stations.
Okay, yeah.
It's not that much, it's not that big, you know. So the menu I have ain't that big.
Cool. Robert, what about you? What'd you think about week 1? I know you've done it. This would be your second time, right?
Yeah, it's my second time after my leave of absence. Last time I only had to turn it in once and got the grade that I got for it this time after the 3rd submission. So the evaluators evaluate differently, I can tell.
Yeah.
But I eventually got it back up to where I had it the first 6 weeks. And I guess I had to be happy with that because it finally got graded 3rd time real late last night.
You know what that means? That means that you have a good evaluator that's going to hold you to the fire, and that's a really positive thing. So, you know, take advantage of that. Sometimes
I was able to get the first 3 weeks in the last time before my leave of absence. So come week 4, I'll be lost.
What about you, Sparkle Chef? I know you mentioned last week that you're working at one of Roy Yamaguchi's concepts, and you know, how'd you like the week 1?
I really appreciated your comment about footsteps. And then I was thinking about that at the restaurant where I work because I'm taking a lot of footsteps because I'm in the brigade, then I have to get out of the brigade, then I have to walk all the way around to the walk-in refrigerator, or I have to go outside to the walk-in freezer. So now my mind and my wheels are turning about keeping things compact, close, don't lose labor time, because there's a lot of walking, even though there's a lot of staff, and it's a pretty big size kitchen. But I have that when laying out the equipment. I'm trying to think, how can I take the fewer steps? You know, where can I put things on compact, smaller, and everything at people's fingertips so they don't have to keep running back and forth to the walk-in. So your point about footsteps and labor costs, I thought that was really, for me, helpful.
So every time thank you for that comment. And every time you take a footstep, we have to pay you. And so we're going to get into that starting next week, a little bit more about the footsteps as you guys get closer to laying out your kitchens. You know, you're going to have kind of a different perspective. Kitchens in industry are not laid out for beauty. They're laid out for practicality. And so we put a lot of thought process. We talked about some of the numbers, you know, right around $275 a foot to lay out a commercial kitchen. And if that is not thought out quite well, you end up taking a lot of footsteps. You end up with a lot of inefficiencies. So it's something that we work on. Chef Suzanne and I were talking about that, I think, in last block, and she asked her husband how many steps he took in a day. And what was that, Chef Suzanne?
He has days, because he works in a kitchen, he has days that he can walk 25 or 30,000 steps because he works in a really old hospital. And he takes the stairs, and the kitchen is just monstrous. It's the largest area-wise kitchen I've ever been in. And he just, I mean, that's why he's this big around, because he walks a million steps, and it's crazy. But it's his reality.
The first kitchen that I became executive chef in 1991 at the first hotel that I ran. The kitchen was a little bit over 3,000 square feet, and I would come home after 9-10 miles of walking in that kitchen, and it was an incredible experience. Hey, I really appreciated everybody's effort into the discussion forum this week. I think there were a lot of cool things that were posted. Did that open up anybody's eyes? Bill, what about you? Did that open up your eyes at all?
Yeah. As far as what, Chef? Oh, my eyes, as far as what?
Did it help you zero in on what you're looking to do?
I mean, I kind of got it already in my mind, what I want to do. Just as far as getting it, the layout, because you guys were talking about the steps and stuff like that, which you know, I post on the chat side there all the time, but I'm being serious. I don't have feet. I'm in a wheelchair, so I got to space stuff out so that, you know, I can get in there, spin around, and still give room for someone to go behind me. So my kitchen, you know, will be, I mean, if I can design it myself, it'll be a little bit wider than your normal kitchen, which means people's feet will have to walk a little bit more. But I plan on doing like a smokehouse type of thing.
Oh, cool.
So I'm hoping to spend the majority of my time at the smoker.
Oh, cool. I've seen some pretty wicked ADA accommodations in kitchens before. And it seems, you know, you would think, hey, it's going to make it inefficient. It's going to make it wider. It's going to make, and I've seen some designs where it's like, whoa, yeah, it's more efficient than it would have been the other way. And I think sometimes adapting it to ADA needs, which is something big in our industry because we do have things that we have to conform to. But as far as a kitchen, it makes you think a lot deeper on all of your moves and your accessibility to everything that we need to apply to everybody to make us all a lot more efficient. And so a lot of those measures that I've seen taken as far as, you know, being able to reach, grab, move a short distance, it's been really efficient. So I'm excited to see what you come up with.
You know, height thing, you know, reached up. And I don't know if you've ever been run over by a wheelchair, but I mean, it hurts. I've run over several people, some on purpose, but it hurts. So I don't want to be, you know, filling out workman's comp claims because I've been running over my employees. So I have to wear, you know, no Crocs in my kitchen, steel toe boots type of thing.
So on day one, is everybody going to sign a disclaimer? Yeah,
exactly right. No Crocs allowed.
I don't know if you've ever done any research on Paul Verdome, but yeah, the Roberts down there. Yep. He had some really cool accommodations because he lost his ability to walk towards the end of his career. And they actually, instead of accommodating the kitchen to his needs, they built him a mobile device in the kitchen. And rudimentary, I would say, was like a motorized bar stool, but it was a lot more trick than that, which allowed him to circumvent and go all over the kitchen and work just like everybody else. It was a really cool system. But Paul Verdome, it's widely available on YouTube. There's a lot of information about him.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, he also lost a lot of weight too.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Before he passed away, he did get down quite a bit, but he was a wonderful culinarian. See, Dan Peck is in the house down there in the corner. How'd you like the discussion forum, Dan?
Hi, chefs. I enjoyed the discussion forum. It occurred to me this morning I didn't post a couple of responses. I apologize. Those are in now, but I'm typically not late. But it was interesting to me because I, like Bill, I know exactly what it is I'm hoping to accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
But I am having a hard time visualizing the layout itself. Only because of the experiences I've had over the years. And, you know, the steps is always a big deal. I mean, I'm in a kitchen right now that could fit in my one-car garage. And I think that I take too many steps. I like the ambiance ideas. Scoping around, it was kind of interesting doing the researching and trying to find places that resembled what I have in my mind's eye. So I'm excited about tonight. I think tonight's really going to put a stamp on last week's assignment. And I yeah, it's fun so far.
It's really interesting because I think a lot of us as chefs have a tendency to be a little bit more on the creative side. We're not a traditional black and white thinker, and so we do come up with a lot of ideas in our heads. But once we have to visualize those on paper in front of us, then it begins to really take shape and form as to the direction that we're going in.
It does. It also shed a lot of light on the equipment that I'm going to need for my mom and pop shop that I plan to run. I mean,
call your bank, man.
Chef Suzanne gave me some nice feedback about one particular station that I had several different employees trying to touch at the same time for one product. Yeah. And I don't know how to handle it, but it seems a little unlikely. I plan to be the baker. I plan to be the one that's making the bread that I've designed. I plan to be the one that puts the menu together, obviously, and that kind of thing. So it was difficult in that aspect trying to tell you who's going to be running these stations and who's going to be touching this food when a lot of it is going to be me, at least in the interim. I'll branch out, but
in the interim, that's wise. But the secret to success in this industry is to learn to be the one that gets everybody else to do it the way you want it done. And when you can master that, you have succeeded. Because a chef, and I see a lot of the work that you're doing, Dan, and I have a lot of faith in the direction that you're going in. And eventually you're going to get to the point where you can't do everything. So the true success is being able to hire somebody, train them, and hold them accountable to do it exactly the way you visualize it. Once you have an entire kitchen set up that way, then you can focus on growing your business. So that's really kind of the big step, the
delegation.
Down the road. It was hard for me to learn as a young chef. I thought I could do everything. It didn't work out so well, but
see, I'm an old chef and I'm still trying to do all of it.
Yeah.
But I need to let somebody else do that. You're right, though. I need to break out of that mindset and just train properly and
hold them accountable.
That's right. Thank you, sir.
Chef Suzanne Lasagna. What's your feedback on week one? What do you think?
I actually thought they looked really good. Dan actually brought up probably one of the biggest issues is that it says stations. And so when you kind of step back and go, okay, well, someone's going to make this, and they just start listing like Dan did. Well, these are the traditional brigade system or even more modern brigade system stations. So these are what I should put down. And it's really not necessarily that you're trying to identify the station as far as who would be responsible for it in your business. And so that's the difference is, like Dan said, in reality, if you look at even something as simple as a burger, technically those things, all the different components can come from different stations, but in reality, it's probably not. It's probably going to be all done by one person at, say, your flat top station or your griddle station. But if you look at the traditional names of those stations, you've got somebody making the bread, you've got somebody making meat, so you've got all those different stations. And so that's why, I know I told a lot of folks that food for thought. How would you better condense that to make it more functional for your own particular business? And so that was a really common mindset. It's not a bad thing. It's great to know the actual traditional station names, but what's going to work in your particular case and in your particular business. But in general, I thought the assignments looked great. I do want to mention, though, that some folks are asking about assignments, and lots of folks waited till Tuesday. So if you turned it in Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday, it is graded. But lots of folks wait till Tuesday, and we have about 72 hours. So it's a really good habit to get in, to turn them in early if you want to get them back early. So
great point. Thank you for bringing that one up, because I don't want to get on my soapbox, but in this class, you need to stay ahead of the curve. Robert was talking a few moments ago how he had to make several corrections, and I'm sure he's one of many in this class that went through the same exercise. So, hey, get your assignments in way ahead. Do not skip a week in this class because each week builds upon the next. So if you can get it in, I'd love to get a call from Chef Suzanne on Saturday saying, everybody submitted, like, how to get it all done. And it's, that would be just a call of joy. So we want to run ahead of the game, if at all possible. Thank you for your comments, Chef Suzanne. Absolutely wonderful. Ladies and gents, this week we are going to set our facility layout tool to the side. Do not discard it because we will be coming back to it in week 3. So it's just put it on the snooze mode because we are going to go into a little bit of a different direction this week. We're going to be talking about facility location. Before we do that, let's take a look at our slide, our class page over here for week 2. Hopefully everybody got to see the lovely intro video. Make sure you watch it. That gives you little hints on how to get through the week a little bit easier. Research materials, make sure you do it and you answer the questions that are in there because it does get graded. So make sure you do follow that and answer the questions that are associated with deciding on a location. Thank you for attending the live session. And then this week, your food business location. We're going to get into that here for about the next 45 minutes to give you guys some food for thought on that subject. It is a critical thing in this industry. Chef Suzanne, how important is location?
Location can make or break a business. We've all seen that. We've all seen that one place. There's that one place in town. We've all seen it. That you're like, ooh, a new place, a new restaurant, a new business is open up in that restaurant. And then you wait because you don't want to go early because you want them to work out all the kinks. And then you go back in a few months and they're gone. And then another one opens in the same spot. You're like, oh, I got to try there. And then it's gone. Location, location, location.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of factors that go into determining where you want your location. Not all concepts require a prime corner spot that requires a lot of traffic. Let's talk about places like Domino's Pizza, for example, that relies primarily upon delivery. So they can go with a space that's a little bit less expensive. If somebody plans on doing a catering business or even some type of culinary school, those generally do not require prime locations. However, if you are working on a concept that requires a lot of foot traffic, you're probably going to need something with a lot of visibility. Location generally in the restaurant industry is considered a form of marketing, right? It's not something we think about in terms of convenience. It's something that we think about in terms of being able to sell our business to those around us. So there's a lot of thought that goes into it. There's also a lot of facilities out there that rely heavily on backdoor business. Backdoor business in the industry is what we refer to as DoorDash, Grubhub, Postmates, things like that. If your concept is going to rely heavily upon that, then you might want to really consider your location because location can be extremely expensive. There are other types of facilities that are a lot more conscientious about where they put their facilities. You'll probably rarely notice a Chick-fil-A that's exactly on the corner. It's always off the intersection just a little bit. Their mentality behind that is they do that to save on their initial investment into the business because off corner spots are a little bit less expensive. However, there are places like McDonald's. McDonald's happens to own all the land on their restaurants. That's what makes them such a wealthy corporation. They don't own the restaurant, but they own the land that it sits on. And they generally have corner spots that makes them so wealthy, and that's part of their concept. There are other locations for restaurants as well that do have captive audiences, right? Let's see, Chef Suzanne was talking about a hospital a little bit earlier. Hospitals have very captive audiences when it comes to food service, cafeterias. Their doctors and nurses and medical staff and administrators are on property, so they have a tendency to eat at those facilities. And a lot of times those facilities are sublet to certain providers. So that is a captive audience. Another captive audience would be considered an airport, right? Airport has travelers in it. They need somewhere to eat. So the amount of space is, or the amount of selection they have is pretty limited. So your facility is going to do pretty well. And most likely they won't be back either. So that kind of changes the whole mentality. How important is it? Corporations like Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, Olive Garden, Chili's, all of the generic box places pay tremendous amount of money to do what we call site inspections. They'll pay upwards of $25,000 to $30,000 for someone to come in and do a survey and an inspection of an area to determine exactly where their location should be. We are probably not in that area, and in that financial realm to be able to pay that kind of money. But the reason they end up in good locations is because they do. Some of the things that you can do, however, once you zero in on your concept, there's a lot of available information out there to help you determine exactly where your business should be. I think most of you guys have established your target markets, right? Is that true? Does everybody know about target markets by now? Target market is the specific segment of society that you are trying to attract into your business. For example, a Chili's style restaurant would be a little bit more, their target market would be millennials, people that want to come in, kind of drink, casual, fun, working professionals off of work, probably don't have children at home, so they have a little bit more free time, a little bit more disposable income. However, more formal restaurants will target market what we call empty nesters, meaning they have no children at home, but they do have a good amount of disposable income. So, you're going to want to be in that specific area. So there's a lot of factors that go into establishing that. We'll get into some of those here in just a few minutes. A couple of key factors when it comes to deciding where to put your restaurant are very, very important. Parking is critical, right? A lot of people do not like to walk extensive distances to eat at your restaurant. An extensive distance can be 100 feet. They like to be able to park at the facility. And guess what? When you rent out that location, guess what else you're renting out? A parking lot, right? So all of these things need to go into your numbers. Another big issue is visibility. We just talked about some of the businesses that don't want the visibility. But let's say we'll take Bill's Smokehouse, right? If he's relying on heavy foot traffic as his form of advertising, he's probably going to want to be somewhere where there's a lot of vehicular traffic, somewhere where there's a lot of foot traffic that will drive business into his location. He's going to pay for it. It's going to be expensive, and it'll be reflected in his menu item pricing. Dan was talking a little bit earlier about a smaller cafe type facility. I don't know that that needs to have a high traffic visibility location. That could be something that would be in a little bit more of a rustic area. Sunday mornings, people have a tendency to search out great places to eat. Friday nights, the same thing. So I don't know if location would be as visibility of a location would be as important in that situation. Size is critical. You cannot rent out just any size of facility. In this class, we are working with diagrams. You're going to lay out your front of the house. You're going to lay out your back of the house. We're going to give you the formulas to determine how much square footage you have. Chef Suzanne, do we get free square feet in the restaurant?
Oh, that would be sweet.
Wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yes. It's
Probably
just like what's that?
Probably not.
Probably not. It's just like when you buy your home, you don't go and write the check and then have the broker stand up and say, you know what, we gave you an extra 1,000 square feet because we care about you. It ain't going to happen, man. You have to be able to realistically use every square inch in that restaurant, because every square inch in that restaurant costs money. There is no free square footage. So that's extremely critical. If your concept is a little bit more formal, we'll get into the actual formulas here. You're going to have a little bit of a larger space. If it's a little bit more casual, it's going to be kind of a medium space. And if it's a little bit more quick service, such as a burger joint or a taco joint, you're going to have kind of a smaller space. So you need to put all these things together on that. Let's take a look. We're going to open up some slides here. And I have on my notes, and I don't know why. I know some of you have mentioned food trucks, and location for a food truck is extremely critical. Food trucks are kind of a trend of the day. They are not a long-term trend, and food trucks also have about a 60% failure rate within the first 3 years. The 40% that do remain in business don't generate really any profit. They just generate enough money to keep their doors open. So you really have to be very, very conscientious if you do decide to go with a food truck. Let's talk about a couple of the reasons here why restaurants fail. Does anybody know what the failure rate is in the restaurant industry? Anybody have a wide guess? Yeah, Robert does.
40%.
Yeah.
75%.
It's pretty. That's pretty.
75%.
Yep, it's pretty high up there. And check this out. Here's a couple of reasons why we fail in the restaurant industry. There's numerous factors. Number one is lack of experience, lack of knowledge, without a doubt. A lot of people get into this industry and they don't realize the depth of work that it takes to operate and run a facility. However, the big number is 80% of the restaurants fail before their 5th year. For those of you that are going into this industry and you're going to dump your life savings into the restaurant, you need to pay very close attention and educate yourself thoroughly on the subject matter that we're talking about, right? This really amplifies how important location and facility layout and design is, right? It's not the easiest industry. It's got a very high failure rate, and I really think that failure rate is due to the fact that a lot of people can cook something at home, and all of a sudden they think they can open up a restaurant and do it, and it doesn't work that way. This is a special breed of animal. So education and knowledge and experience are your best friends when it comes to opening a restaurant. Around 60% of new restaurants will fail within their first year. A lot of that is attributed to location. Location, 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 and lack of self-awareness, right? I've had many, many friends that or people that I've known that have, kicked out an incredible fettuccine at or fettuccine Alfredo at a dinner party, and that, next thing you know, they're trying to open a restaurant and they lose everything. So be conscientious about that. Lack of money is also another reason that we fail in this industry. Whenever you open up your business, make sure you have at least 3 years of operating capital, because that's about how long it's going to take you to make any money in this industry. Chef Suzanne, I noticed you were shaking your head quite a bit when I was talking about people that don't know much that get into the business.
I have met lots of people, and you always want them to succeed. You never want a business to fail, but people jumping in with both feet without having the right information and thinking just because they can make a really good pot pie means they can just jump up and open a business. The money involved, the research involved, there's so much to it. And I'm actually glad you brought up food trucks, because I always think that seems to be a way that a lot of business owners try to kind of get their feet wet with a food truck and think, well, I can put my food truck anywhere. It's on wheels. I could just move it somewhere else. And the reality of it is, no, you can't, because there are, and I'm sure you'll talk about this coming up, but there are lots of rules and regulations. There may be a reason why there's not a food truck in a certain area. So, you know, there's so much involved, and even something that some of us think, well, that's a little cheaper way to do it, to go with a food truck versus a freestanding brick and mortar building. And there's so much more. It's just so much involved. That's why I think this class is so interesting and important.
Great words of advice. My only advice, if somebody who does want to open up a food truck, we're certainly going to give you a lot of education and knowledge here, but the reality is you're probably not going to make much money, and you're probably not going to get the money back that you put into it. And that's not my opinion. That's what the numbers say, based on research, and that's just a reality. Think about a food truck. If you're selling your food for $10 a pop, how many people can you get through there in the span of 2 or 3 hours, right? You know, if you can get 100 people through there, I mean, that's a lot. And so that means you only generate $1,000 in revenue for a 12-hour day. By the time you get done paying your expenses and everything else, you're left with $50, $75, or maybe $100 if you're lucky after working 12 hours. 12 into 100, you're not making much money. So there's a lot to go into that as you think about it. How many people out there were thinking about food trucks? Sparkling Chef? Yeah. A couple of y'all. Jay down there? Yep. Now don't let me discourage you from chasing your dream. I just want to be upfront and honest with you about the reality of this. So basically, I have seen some food trucks succeed. I have seen some food trucks have longevity, which I mean 3 to 4 years. It is possible to make it in this industry in a food truck, but I don't know if it's really possible to support a home or a family. So these are the things that you really need to take into consideration before moving too much further. A couple of things to consider. Once you have zeroed in on where you want your restaurant, you are going to really try to avoid moving into a restaurant that has been there previously and failed. They call this a cursed location. And a lot of newer people in the industry will try to think to themselves, hey, that was a restaurant before. I can get in there for nothing and turn the key, open the door, and make $1 million. Well, there was a reason that location didn't make it before, right? It's a risk. It's a bet. And you're betting on the fact it wasn't the location. The number one reason restaurants fail is because of the location. So it's not the safest bet to be making. Critical information to understand here as well. Know your neighbors before you move in, right? You have to thoroughly research your area. For example, if you lease a facility and you think it's the most beautiful, incredible facility, it's got good foot traffic, and you decide that you want to have a bar inside this facility, you lease the space out, and then you realize that there's a school around the corner. You can't get a liquor license because you're too close to the school, right? You could open up your facility, a fine dining restaurant, and understand that 1 block away, there's an obnoxious nightclub, right? That's got thumping rap all night, right? That does not go well with a filet mignon, right? You could also determine, hey, behind the restaurant, man, there's a mechanic that's working on Harleys, and he's revving those things all day long, and the sound is coming through my walls. Know your neighbors. Find out what's going on. Do your research there as well. Another thing that's really, really important that we touched on earlier, or as far as your target market. Arturo, what kind of restaurant are you going to do? I'm going to pick on Arturo here for a minute.
I'm thinking to do like a small taqueria.
Small taqueria?
Yes, I when I started my career, I started 16 years old working, and I saw a lot of good things because you don't have to invest a lot of money on that. And I see this person who did really well, their menu was very small, like mine, very to the point. 3 or 4 items, pretty much the same, and it was close to a high school. And believe me, I was making a lot of burritos, a lot of tacos.
Yeah.
I mean, lunch, dinner. I think on lunch I did about between at least 100 to 150 burritos in 3 hours.
Yeah.
Money.
That's what. So where was this at?
This was in Santa Cruz, California.
That's awesome, man. I'd love to hear that. That's probably one of the safest concepts that you could roll with. 300 burritos is a pretty good volume for a cart or a location, and that's pretty significant. But then again, you're not dealing with nearly the overhead. You're not having to deal with a lot of rent, a lot of space, and everything else. So it's a pretty conservative bet that you're going to succeed. I know down in Mexico, in the areas that I have lived in down there, taquerias they're everywhere, and thank God, because I eat at every one of them. And I have a concept in my mind. I want to lease out taco carts when I move back down there again and give everybody the opportunity to work. But you really need to understand what your disposable income is of your surrounding area. If you are trying to do a fine dining restaurant, you need to be conscientious of what is in the area. You don't want to open up next to a Dollar General, right? Because that means that the people driving by or parking next to your restaurant are probably not going to be able to afford to eat there. However, you do not want to open up a hamburger stand next to the Opera House, right? Because most likely the people going to the Opera House are going to be looking for a little bit more of a formal type environment, and they're going to have the disposable income to eat at your formal restaurant versus your burger restaurant, which is very, very important.
Chef,
yes.
Before I know you're getting ready to change topics here again, and we got a handful of hands up real quick, so I wasn't sure if you wanted.
Oh boy, let's answer them. Let's answer some questions.
Awesome.
How about Sparkling Chef? What's up, Sparkling Chef?
Hi. You're mentioning about the food truck. That was one of my concepts earlier in the school I was thinking about, because it was small, compact, portable. But then breaking down the cost, when you were talking about it, that's what I did. I kind of looked at the cost, the percentages, and it's like a couple $100 profit. And then for all the time, you're carrying your stuff to the truck, then you got to take the stuff out of the truck, and then you got to go shopping for your food. And I was thinking, I don't think I want to do that. And then
and most states require that you hang your license in a licensed facility other than your food truck. So you also have to rent out a kitchen space somewhere.
No, that in the state of Hawaii, you have to have a commercial kitchen too. And then you have to rent out that space. So by the time you do all that, I was like, oh, wow, it was a lot and a lot of time consuming and not worth the money.
Right.
I mean, if you can do it, but Hawaii is popular right now. Food trucks are popular, but you have to go to a certain area. You can't just park it anywhere. You have to be it has to be regulated. It's regulated in Maui. And there's certain designated spots where you can put your truck, or events where you can, but you still got to get a vendor's license. There's a lot of hoops you have to go through to do that too. And you have to get inspected. Your truck has to be inspected. It has to be industry standard. It's a lot.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is possible. I've seen it happen. But I also, when you're investing a significant amount of money, $100,000 into opening up your food truck, which is realistically going to cost you by the time you get your licenses and permits and insurances and product and everything else and buy your truck, you have to think about the longevity of your restaurant concept. How long is it going to take you to recoup that initial investment? At $10 a plate,
right. And then the gas prices here is like over almost $5 a gallon in Hawaii, because we have to ship in our gas, our oil and stuff, and then the truck goes 10 miles a gallon or something. So I was taking that into consideration too.
Yeah, so it is possible, but it has to be well thought out. Great comments, Sparkly Chef.
Yeah.
Thank you, Derek. What's up, man? Where's Derek? Derek.
Hey, how are you, Chef?
I'm good, man.
Hey, on the food truck thing, I didn't want, that wasn't one of the things I really thought about, but I just want to comment. My neighbor, him and I kind of hooked up. We would do dishes, him from his country, Ecuador, and I started doing some other dishes, and when we get together, I always recognize the food truck in front of the house. Later, I translated through Google. He says, I have 3. We're in Wynwood. And I was like, okay, because I would always smell these dishes cooking. He took me there. The line was ridiculous. He had 3 food trucks from 29th Street to 20th and even over in Midtown. So, and his dishes were very simple. I mean, it was just the simplest dishes, the simple menu, and delicious, just delicious. But he was one of the, you know, ones that were making. There were other guys that I work with in the catering business, and they would have to get a hookup basically where someone said, okay, you can park it here for this event I'm having. It's sponsored by such and such. And, you know, through that, that was Bill Hansen's Luxury Catering. He taught catering and everything, and I worked for him. So he would like give student chefs or student professional cooks an opportunity to do what you're doing. And I actually called, I think it was Chef Caesar, Chef Luke and Tyson. And they asked me to get 5 things that I really wanted to do. And one of the concepts was pantry kitchens. And that was, you know, the layout. And that was part of the lesson because I could rent a kitchen that closed at night. You know, they had breakfast and lunch for say, and they didn't serve dinner. So I could rent that from a certain time. I didn't choose to use their products. I brought in my own. The cost went down, and I really couldn't afford a food truck or anything else.
That's
that
a
was
great,
the only really option.
Derek, that's a great segue into our next topic. So I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for sharing, man. Hey, Tim, what's going on?
Hey, Chef, you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So I was also, y'all was talking about location and foot traffic and things like that. Mm-hmm. Something that we've been recognizing here in my hometown lately is exclusivity as well. Like somebody will offer a certain dish and they will deliberately only make, like, say they only make 60 to 80 dishes of that plate. And then once it's gone, it builds popularity and brings in the business and tries to get the early sets. Like, I got to get there and get there on time or I'm going to do without.
That's a cool concept. There's kind of an old saying that, you know, demand creates demand. And when somebody, you know, shows up and something's sold out because you've been so busy, whether you were or you weren't, it generates, you know, a lot more interest and demand in the product. So that's a cool comment. Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. And I don't want to discourage anybody from doing a food truck by no means, but you just have to really think about it. I would do a food truck under the assumption that I had a successful facility in the right location. And in order to generate more backdoor business, I would utilize a food truck to go ahead and utilize it for catering and promo purposes. And I think those are the most successful food truck concepts that I've seen. Moving on to a different subject here, a different subject matter. We're going to take a look at some different types of kitchen concepts here real quick. You know, I think Derek was kind of touching upon this right now. Shared kitchen concepts are becoming very, very popular, especially here in the Tucson area. I know Atlanta has quite a few of them. Colorado, Denver has quite a few. I don't know about Texarkana, though.
Actually, we do have a shared kitchen in town. We actually do. It is fairly new, but we do.
Oh, that's cool. And a shared kitchen concept allows you to share the expense of having a kitchen with other organizations. And what that'll mean is, you know, Joe Schmo gets to use the kitchen from 6 a.m. to 10, and they amortize the entire cost of the operation, and they'll charge him, you know, for those 4 hours. And then you'll come in, you can use the kitchen 10 to 2, et cetera, et cetera. So they are becoming quite popular in today's society. That might be a good thing to think about for Arturo with his taqueria, because most likely you're going to have to be able to hang your license somewhere in order to be able to produce, whether you end up producing out of your house or not. you will have to satisfy the health department that way. I want to touch on leases here real quick when it comes to food service operations. Leases are very, very interesting. Once you sign a lease on a restaurant, it is yours. There is no going to a landlord and saying, unfortunately, things did not unfold the way I thought they were. Here's the keys, have a nice day. If you lease out the restaurant, the traditional lease is about 5 years with an option to renew for another 5 years. And boy, people get stuck in that 5-year thing, and their restaurant goes belly up after 3 years, and they're stuck with 2 years of lease payments. Something to be very conscientious about. Another thing that you need to be conscientious too is in the restaurant industry, they like to lease out a lot what they call a triple net lease. Triple net leases in the restaurant industry can be very, very challenging because basically what that means is you're required for 100% of the maintenance on that property. So should the roof leak, should the AC system go down, should the hood system have challenges, you are responsible. So you need to be very conscientious, get some good advice before you get into any kind of lease or contractual obligations with the landlord. It can be difficult. Let's take a look at another slide here. Here's a couple of definitions that you need to be aware of when you're leasing out space within the restaurant industry. Always understand what you are paying for. We mentioned at the beginning of the class, you pay for every square inch in the kitchen. Last week, we took a look at utensils hanging on the walls, pots coming down from the ceiling. The reason for that is we pay for that space, so we utilize it, right? Usable square feet, right? Square footage actually occupied by the tenant. And then rentable square feet. There are oftentimes common areas in restaurants. Those are areas that you share with other leased locations, such as walkways, such as parking lots, such as patios. You are responsible for the cost and the upkeep of those areas when you lease out your restaurant. So be very conscientious about exactly what you are paying for. So, many restaurants do utilize shared spaces, such as shared patios, shared foyers, which help reduce their cost. So think out of the box when you go to lease a little bit. And we're going to move on to one more slide since we're here. And we're going to talk about some different locations that you can actually lease out your space in. And this one up here, I've seen this a number of times where people get into old gas stations. And I love this concept. Colonel Sanders, one of my heroes from Kentucky Fried Chicken, actually started his business in a gas station and became very, very successful. For some reason, gas stations and food go together, right? Chef Suzanne, what about the Michelin Guide, right? Everybody's heard about the Michelin stars, right? Everybody wants a Michelin starred restaurant, right? Well, the Michelin Guide started out as a guide in Europe to tell travelers where they could purchase gasoline while traveling throughout Europe. It's done by the Michelin Tire Company. And as it grew, they started including gas stations that sold food, and it just built upon that, and it eventually became what we know today as the Michelin Guide. So those 1, 2, and 3-star Michelin chefs out there are a result of gas stations. Isn't that right, Chef Suzanne?
I like that story. Yes.
Yes.
I think that's super fun. What an interesting way to start.
Yeah. So don't laugh at the old gas station concept. There's been some success behind it. Museums, department stores, those are very odd locations, but very successful. They oftentimes have captive audiences. My first restaurant was quite large. It was a little over 3,000 square feet, had glass windows. It was built at the bottom of a high-rise tower. You would never think to look for a restaurant there. But guess what it had built into it? right? 4,000 employees that worked up above it. And so, yeah, the concept was very successful. I didn't know much about target markets back then. I got lucky. But so you can always think a little bit outside the box. This restaurant up here in the corner is my most favorite restaurant in the world. It's called the Pacific Way Cafe. It's in a very small town called Gerhardt, Oregon, where James Beard was born and raised. That's where I spent my summers as a child. But this couple moved from New York City. She's a graduate of the CIA, and they bought the old post office. They opened up in here, and they've never looked back. They just serve cioppino, sourdough bread, and fresh seafood. So, you know, think outside the box when you're taking a look at your facility. You can certainly find something quite special there. And then you want to make sure that don't choose a location that is oversaturated with restaurants. My second restaurant concept was a fantastic restaurant concept. We were right down by the Arizona Diamondback Stadium as it was being built back in the 90s. And it was saturated with so much competition. It was difficult for us to survive because there were so many different options down there. So you need to be very, very conscientious about that. So when it comes to choosing your location, before we move on to our assignment, a couple of things you really need to realize, and Chef Suzanne is going to look for this week. Pay very close attention to your target market, right? Do not open your burger joint next to the Opera House. Chef Suzanne will pick up on that in a heartbeat. Make sure that your location is applicable to your concept. Do not do a restaurant that does a lot of dinner traffic in a downtown area. Downtown areas empty out on the weekends and at nighttime, right? You have to think it through. So there's going to be a lot of things that we're going to talk about right now. Let me bring up the class page. Chef Suzanne, am I forgetting to include anything?
I don't think so. I know that once you show the assignment, I know one of the things that I always try to remember to mention is catering. I know folks think, well, it doesn't matter where my location is because I'm a caterer, so it doesn't matter. But in reality, it does matter with a caterer. And also, the same thing like we talked about food trucks. With food trucks also, location does matter. And so for this is, also cooking from home. I know some folks will think, if I have a caterer, if I'm doing catering, or if I have a food truck, I can cook from home. There is very, very, very little in the U.S. that you can cook from home, other than some cottage foods, which in most cases are very, very limited.
Baked goods. Yep.
Yep. So I know those are some things that will show up in this particular assignment. So I'll wait till after you show it, because I think one more thing to add, but I'll wait till you show it.
I'm glad you brought up about the cottage laws. It is called the cottage law. It does go through most of the 50 states here. And basically what that states is that you can prepare some baked goods in your home for sale. Other than that, if you plan on producing any type of product in your house on a legal basis, it's probably not going to happen. I'm not aware of anywhere in the United States where they allow that. I'm not saying they don't, but I'm not aware of any that they do. So you need to be very conscientious about that. So please do not include that in your concept. This week, it is very, very important when you submit your assignment early this week. Thank you very much. You need to make sure that you include a clear and concise brief summary of your concept. This will help Chef Suzanne determine exactly and help her understand when it comes to grading your assignment. So let's take a look at this week's assignment. You're going to be specific where you intend to start your food business, right? Using sentences, talk about the advantages and disadvantages of that location. At least 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages, right? Try to be specific. You don't need to tell Chef Suzanne that I'm going to do it at 1603 North 8th Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma, zip code 8573. Your description of your location would be a downtown area located across the street from the Yankee Stadium. which features high volume foot traffic, and you're going to talk about the advantages of that. And then you will also talk about the disadvantages. When you submit this assignment, in addition to the link, please include a 1 to 2 sentence summary, which I just mentioned. And when you're doing this, we are professionals, right? The way we communicate creates our image. So make sure that you write properly and in proper sentences. Make sure that you punctuate, you spell correctly, and everything else. So pretty much stick along those lines. So 10% adherence to deliverable length. So it should be several sentences long for your advantage, several sentences long for your disadvantage. Do not send Chef Suzanne a novel. She doesn't have time to read a 700-page novel or dissertation on your primary location. It's not going to help your grade. But make sure that you proper spelling and grammar. It's your image. We are professionals in this industry. We need to reflect upon ourselves as that way. 40% understood and discussed the advantages, and then 40% to discuss the disadvantages of the location, and then your clear and concise summary. Chef Suzanne, what would you like to add to that?
All right, so what basically in a nutshell this assignment is, you're going to include your concept summary, which hopefully most of you already did for last week, and you just cut and paste it and stick it back in. Boom, that's what, 10% of your grade this week? That was super easy. Then you are going to tell me a little bit about your location. Again, like Chef said, you don't have to tell me that, you know, it is 74 Main Street in your city. You can if you've already figured out that that's exactly where you want to be. And then basically the meat of this assignment, if you will, is 2 advantages and 2 disadvantages of that location. And when you do the advantages and disadvantages, you need to tell me, this is an advantage, here it is. This is another advantage, here it is. Not because I don't understand, but because if you put down that an advantage is that you're going to be right next door to an auto parts store, then you would probably explain why that is. But if you just put down, well, it would be right next door to an auto parts store, that means nothing to me. Is that an advantage? Is that a disadvantage? You're next door to a Chuck E. Cheese. Advantage? Disadvantage? So you need to explain to me what is the advantage and say that it is an advantage. Here, my advantage is that I would be located next to an auto parts store, and I anticipate bringing in, offering delivery with auto parts. I have no idea why you do that, but I'm just saying as an example. So just tell me what. Tell me what.
That was great. The relationship you grew, though.
Thank you. So that is basically what this assignment is. So your concept summary, your location, and then your 2 advantages, 2 disadvantages. Just it doesn't need to be, like Chef said, doesn't need to be 1,000 words. It doesn't need to be 50 pages. Just complete sentences, make me understand.
I want to see this class. It's our goal for this class to have the highest on-time submission rate of any of the classes at Escoffier. I think we can do it because we have a good crowd in this class. This is a smart class, and if everybody sits down and does this assignment and gets it in early, and you bury Chef Suzanne and you make her spend her whole Sunday doing assignments, I'll be so proud of all of you. Yeah. It can be done.
Bring it on. Bring it on. Bring it on, Sunday.
Yeah.
Bring it
on.
on.
Let's see what she's made of here. Let's show her. Let's show her. Right? So we want to shoot for 100% on-time submission rate in this class. I think it's really feasible. This week's assignment is quite simple. And let's answer some questions. How about, is that Crystal Babcock? Did I get it right?
Hi.
Hi.
I have a question.
Sure.
The assignment that we have where we have to put the equipment in the restaurant to set it up.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to do it and I couldn't quite figure it out. Can you go over that?
Sure. Once we get to that week, we're going to go through it. We're going to go through it in very fine detail.
Okay, great.
Yeah, we're going to show you how to pick everything up. We're going to show you how to move walls. We're going to show everything for you.
All right.
Okay. Thanks.
All right, thank you.
All right. Let's see. How about Sandra? What's up?
Hello.
Hi, Sandra.
Hi. I just want to ask Chef Suzanne, did she get my message that 3 o'clock would be good for me?
I have not yet, but I will make sure that I contact you tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. How about Jay? What's up, Jay?
Hey. Hey, Chef. So the concept summary, does that go in the PowerPoint or does that go in our folder?
You can do it lots of different ways, as long as I can see it. Some folks put it right on the assignment page, right above or below your link that you have to turn in for an assignment. You could put it in. Pardon?
Do another link to it, or do you want us to just copy?
As long as I can find it, because I see it in lots of different places, and I look everywhere before I count it off. So if I can find it, whether it's a separate page or whether you just throw it on that submission page at the beginning, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, so I put it in my folder for this last week because
That's fine.
You told me about that. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. Ruben, what's up, man?
Yeah, do we have to put a link, or can we just type it all out on the online text, or do you prefer the link?
Yes, Suzanne?
Good question. You can do it either way. Some folks feel more comfortable starting a document and typing all this assignment or the concept summary in a document, but if you just want to put this particular assignment, just type it right into that text box. You are more than welcome to. Either way is perfectly fine. Good question.
Good question. Thanks, Ruben. Bill, what's up?
Yeah, Chef. First of all, my apologies to Chef Suzanne. If for some reason she hasn't graded mine by Sunday, she can skip over mine so she can watch the football games because it is championship Sunday. So I'm looking out for her. The other thing is,
for real, I'm going to need a lot of assignments on Sunday because I feel like I already know what's going to be on the TV in my living room. So bring on these Sunday assignments. I'm okay with that.
on the actual assignment, when we're talking about the location, would it be acceptable to either draw a map, Google map, and enclose that in either a link or a document, or just give you a rough idea where it's located?
Any of those things will work. If you actually know the building and you've got it in your mind that this is exactly where you want to be or the lot that you want to put it on, that's fine. But most people don't really have anything that specific. But if you've already researched and you know that in your town on Realtor.com there's a lot you want, put that link in there. I will take a look at it. That's perfectly fine. Some folks go that extreme. Some are just like, yeah, I think I'm just going to be in downtown Chicago. I don't live there. So that would work.
Cool.
Thanks, Chef.
Thanks, Phil. How about the Sparkling Chef?
Hi.
Hi.
So, Chef Suzanne, I want to make you understand, could we send a simple video of the location because it's out of the city, it's more like a country layout. Also, regarding the location and of the disadvantages, would you offer resources and solutions to the disadvantages where we can get outreach services or services to solve our problems because of the disadvantages?
Well, that is a lot to put on my shoulders. So I'm going to say no. I'm just grading an assignment where you're just learning to identify and choose a location, and then you're just looking at some advantages and disadvantages that you see of that location. So there's definitely resources out there that you'll be able to look into. And as far as the video, I'd really prefer just images or just a description, no video needed.
Okay.
And then if you have some questions about resources or additional information in that, you can contact me, and I'll certainly point you in an appropriate direction to help.
Because that's very important, because I'm doing this assignment. But I don't want to just do assignment just because I want to get a grade. I'm doing this assignment because this is my future, my life, and I want solutions to my problems.
Right.
And so if I'm going to get a restaurant and I'm going to get disadvantages, I want solutions to these problems because I may not be educated. I don't know where to go. But to know that I have a place I can go to get, because like you said, one of the biggest hurdles is the financing part, doing a business plan, doing all that kind of stuff. And that's where I'm not there yet, and the resources.
And I can tell you right off the bat, there's an organization by the name of SCORE SCORE, and it's an association of retired business executives. Yeah. They are in all 50 states. It's a volunteer organization supported by the federal government. Yes, they are open. But you can take your business plan to them, and they will answer all of your questions, number one. And then number two, Chef Suzanne is not going to take a look at your advantages and disadvantages and say, okay, goodbye. She will definitely provide you some appropriate feedback. Now, as far as trying to get the specific name of the organizations and that type of stuff, I'll be glad to help you out with that, to point you in the right direction. We're not going to leave you high and dry. But a lot of this takes a lot of legwork and a lot of effort. Right. That's going to unfortunately fall on your shoulders as the business.
Right. And I'm willing to do the work, you know, but I have to, like, again, be educated and have that proper knowledge. That's why I'm in school, to learn.
Yeah.
And I don't want to just lighten myself up to failure. You know, I'm not doing this class to fail. I'm doing this class to be successful
and
get your advice, feedback, you know. So
we're definitely going to put you in the right direction. So just go ahead and get a hold of me.
I really appreciate that, to know
no problem. No problem. You're certainly welcome to reach out. I've opened up a lot of restaurant facilities, and I've had to do this quite a few times. And so I'll be glad to share with you what I know and help you out any way that I can.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Are there any other questions out there? Once again, ladies and gents, feel free to pick up the phone and call, email, text, available multiple different ways. If you have any questions regarding this assignment, if you have any questions regarding your evaluation, feel free to get a hold of Chef Suzanne Lasagna. She will certainly be glad to work with you and help you out. She is fantastic. And I bid all of you a fantastic week. And thank you for getting your assignments in by Saturday this week. Have a great one.
Good night.
Aloha. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night. Bye, everybody.
Good night, everybody.